Hey guys, All in Crypto here, and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, for another YouTube video. I hope you've all had a fantastic week so far. Today we're going to be diving into our daily cryptocurrency market update, where we not only look at the cryptocurrency market, we take a look at global finance, global events that are taking place, and how they all have an impact on our market. And of course, today we are going to be diving into what the Fed Chairman Jerome Powell had to say yesterday in regards to the meeting that the Federal Reserve had, sort of discussing monetary policy and how they were going to tackle inflation. I say that in abbreviations because that's not really what they're doing. Certainly, they've said that they're not actually going to start tackling inflation with things like rate hikes until the new year. Certainly, March is what we're looking at. So we're going to get into it all. Overall, I've got to say I was very happy with this. It was a lot less damaging than I thought it potentially might be. There was a lot riding on it. We did say that markets were going to move. I'm very happy with this, and markets seemed to act accordingly as well. We can see Bitcoin had an uptick. We can see the dollar had a downward spike, and this is really because they aren't, when they say they're going to tackle inflation, we're going to play a clip of Jerome speaking in relation to interest rate hikes, which is really one of the only ways that they can tackle inflation, by making the dollar kind of stronger and more expensive to use, if you will. And this kind of bolsters everybody up that gets paid in fiat, or certainly mitigates some of the inflationary pressures that quantitative easing has. But we can see the dollar went down. Ethereum went up, of course, Cardano as well. The S&P had a beautiful daily candle yesterday, actually. We're seeing the FTSE come up from its sell-off. It was selling off. We had this news, and then it saw a very sharp bounce. Apple, beautiful candle as well. We even saw oil get a little bit of an uptick, but there's a lot going on externally, or I should say internally, with oil markets and how the price is kind of coming about. And even gold saw a bit of an uptick. But I've got to admit, before I was in crypto, and I've been in gold and silver, I'm no longer really in gold and silver. Since I was a kid. Gold and silver have been very, very disappointing. And I think gold and silver are going to be one of those trades that, you know, you're very wrong on, and then all of a sudden you're very right. But they're very lackluster and boring, certainly in opposition with crypto, which is unbelievably exciting. And we're so excited to be here in this space. So we saw the markets kind of act very well, given what Jerome was saying. Up to this meeting, there was lots of people worried about interest rate hikes and them really starting to aggressively taper off bond buybacks and Fed purchasing and adding to their balance sheets, which of course would cause a liquidity issue for markets, as markets have been very much propped up by the Federal Reserve, certainly since March 2020. You know, the whole reason Bitcoin had such a fantastic run was really due to the inflationary pressures that QE had on the fiat systems, the US dollar. When you look at Bitcoin, you're looking at it in opposition with the US dollar. And we've shown you these charts, one on top of the other, and shown you just how correlated they are. And we actually saw that beautifully yesterday. So what were some of the main takeaways? There's a couple of articles here. Powell's speech: inflation will run above our 2% goal well into next year. Absolutely it will, ladies and gentlemen. You know, you can see this is sort of some of the printing. 40% of all dollars were printed in the past 2 years. It's all correlated. The reason we do these daily updates, where we not only look at the crypto space, but we look at finance as a whole, it's something I pay a lot of attention to, and they're all good metrics and landmarks to kind of weigh your space up as. Crypto is very, very small, but it's more mature than it has been previously. This is why we're seeing what now doesn't look like a following of the Bitcoin 4-year cycle theory, and we go into more of a lengthened cycle theory, which I'll bring up in just a second, is because we're more of a mature market with more of the same actors in the traditional space now in our realm. So we need to pay attention to everything, as we're clearly showing you with these videos. It's correlated. And we did say going into yesterday, there was going to be lots of ifs, buts, and maybes, lots of kind of threats to maybe up interest rates, and they're not actually setting dates for interest rates. There's variables that need to go into consideration when they're actually thinking about upping these rates, such as jobs. One thing that they did stress was that the economy actually looked very strong. They said it was actually stronger than pre-pandemic levels. Now, this is due to all the stimulus that they've issued out, all the new jobs that they've created, mostly government jobs, so on and so forth. And again, he used, which really winds me up. I've got to admit, I'm going to say this, and it's going to be unpopular. I don't mind Jerome Powell. Yeah, I think as far as Fed chairmen go, he's not the worst. He's not the best, but he's certainly not the worst. Milton Friedman got a mention in here yesterday, so it kind of shows you that maybe he takes a little bit of Milton Friedman's approach to things. I'm I like a lot of Milton Friedman's stuff. I'm not 100% on board with all of it though. But I don't actually mind Jerome. I am on the opposite team. I'm on Team Crypto. I'm all in crypto. I think crypto is a far better system once we implement it. And he did actually touch on cryptocurrencies. He essentially said that he doesn't see cryptocurrencies as a threat to national security and monetary policy. And he actually, in some ways, praised stablecoins and said if you integrated it to one of the big tech giants, we could have very positive effects on how the remittance market works and money markets work as a whole. So he was actually quite positive on crypto. This is obviously following the congressional hearing with the CEOs testifying in favor of crypto. It's so much going on. It's such an exciting time to be alive, guys. You need to remember that. Remember, what you are. And have a bit of positivity. I see lots of negativity, certainly when the market is doing what it's doing. But this is an amazing time to be alive, guys. And if you play this right, you will be rewarded tenfold. So this is a full recap of the Fed's decisions with Powell highlights and instant investor insight. We know that markets moved up on this. It's evident in the charts. And this was really due to, like I say, him saying that they are going to definitely go ahead with tapering bond buybacks and purchasing from the Fed, which is going to cause a little bit of liquidity. They're going to essentially half it for the next couple of months. But even that is dependent on how the economy does as a whole. So non-farm payrolls, which we've covered with you on this video, are a big thing to watch because that gives you a good idea of relatively how strong the economy is based on job growth or job reduction and the unemployment rate and so on and so forth. But really, he's not going to do anything until next year. And even though they're going to taper bond buybacks, they've still got that stimulus markets for the next couple of months. And I'm going to play you a clip here of him saying, look, the interest rate thing and even the tapering, and he actually mentioned the new variant here and said, look, from what we know so far, it doesn't look like it's going to be too much of a problem than we've already encountered. But if it does become that, then we'll act accordingly. And what he's basically saying there is that we will not, in the face of a new strain on the economy, up interest rates. He goes, that would be completely counterproductive with what we're trying to do. This is what I mean with the Fed. People think the Federal Reserve is stupid. They may look it, but it's deliberate that they look it. They're not. They know, these guys know exactly what they're doing. It's all a game, and you can see that. When, for example, he comes out and says the economy is incredibly strong, they're weighing it up on a number of metrics in a blanket case. They're not going individually into each. They're not looking at it on an individual case. They're looking at it on a blanket case where they're looking at the overview and using very generic metrics, if you will. So it's madness to me that the economy is stronger now than it previously was. But then again, that would kind of be true in a way because of how much money they printed. But that's all really quite fake. And there's so much. I mean, the world of economics is fascinating. Unfortunately, at school and in other places, they make it sound very, very boring. It's just like history. History is one of the most amazing things to study when you study true history and not the kind of narrative that they push onto you via schools and public outlets like that, so much going on. Let's play this clip. This is him talking about interest rate hikes, the fact that they're not going to do it until they've finished tapering off inflation, as it would be counterintuitive, and that even the interest rate hikes are very much held up on the economy and how it's doing at large.
Of having to wait.
Can I just follow up in thinking about having to wait? Is it still the policy or the position of the committee that you will not raise rates until the taper is complete? Thank you.
Yes, the sense of that, of course, being that buying assets is adding accommodation and raising rates is removing accommodation. Since we're 2 meetings away from completing the taper, assuming things go as expected, I think if we wanted to lift off before then you would stop the taper potentially sooner. But it's not something I expect to happen. But I do not think it would be appropriate, and we don't find ourselves in a situation where we might have to raise rates while we're still purchasing assets.
Voxy, the mobile network that gives you endless social.
And there's an advert for you. So yeah, that was really what Jerome was saying. He was saying that they're going to keep the bond buybacks. They're not going to taper it any more aggressively than they've kind of set out. And upping interest rates are really going to depend on you know, how the economy is doing at large, you know, if there's a downturn, if the new variant causes an issue. So we're going to be in very sort of headwindy markets for a little bit until we get some sort of a clear narrative. But where we are now, you know, markets in many respects got a green light. That bond buybacks are still going to continue. There's still going to be that added liquidity there. Yes, it's going to be getting reduced, but it's not going to be evaporated, if you will. And this, in my opinion, should allow markets to somewhat flourish. So that's what I'm hoping for. I'm going to be watching the S&P, the FTSE, Apple, various other stocks out there. Apple nearly at $3 trillion in terms of market cap, guys. Let me keep bringing that up because we're only at $2.2 trillion. So massive what's going on. We'll keep you up to date with this, but for me, I was very happy with this. Markets acted accordingly, and we actually saw markets do that. You see the dollar in response to the fact that they're going to allow inflation essentially to run into next year and then maybe tackle it with some interest rate hikes, which, let me just make this point abundantly apparent, will not stop inflation. Inflation is here to stay. It is a year-on-year thing, and it's something that we've lived with for years. Go and ask your grandparents how much they bought their houses for, or your parents, and you'll get the kind of sense of things. We did the Freddo analysis, which is a chocolate bar that was 5p when I was a kid and is now like 25p, 30p. And that is a fantastic metric, believe it or not, for inflation. This is what, you know, the world that we live in, and this is the value proposition with Bitcoin and crypto at large. It's a new system that replaces the old failing one. That is all I have for you in this video, guys. I'm going to love and leave you on that note. If you've enjoyed the content, a like is always appreciated. So is a comment. Remember, we do have the ALLIN crypto stake pool. ALLIN is the ticker for Cardano. I'm going to love and leave you. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you very much for watching, guys.